A black waitress risks her job to help a blind white child left alone in a luxury cafe. What she didn't know, that one simple act of kindness would unravel a billionaire's darkest secret and change all their lives forever. Late afternoon in Boston. Sunlight slanted through the tall windows of Bellamy's cafe, casting golden patterns across suits and espresso. Steam. Everything here moved with quiet precision, polished shoes, glowing laptops, low murmurs. It was a world built for people who were too busy to see anything outside their schedule, except for a small corner table. There, nestled beside a lavender pot, sat a young white girl, maybe 10. Her pastel dress was neatly pressed, blonde hair tied loosely behind one ear. But her hands trembled as they searched across the table as if trying to find something she couldn't name. Her oversized dark sunglasses covered most of her face but couldn't hide the fragile whispers slipping from her lips. "Mom, are you coming back soon?" Nobody looked up. No one paused, except Elena Carter, a 25-year-old black waitress standing behind the bar, watching the child with quiet concern. Elena didn't move because it was her job. She moved because she recognized the shape of fear, and because something about that little girl's stillness felt too familiar, like a memory she'd long buried in silence. "Don't go near table 12, Tyson Grant snapped, not looking up from his tablet. "She's been sitting there alone for almost 30 minutes, Elena replied. Voice low, she looked scared. "That's Miranda Astor's daughter," he said flatly, "CEO of Astor Tech. If she finds out you so much as breathed near her kids, she'll have your job. You're still on probation, Carter." "Don't push your luck." Elena's fists clenched at her sides. She knew people like Miranda Astor, people whose money bought silence, whose status bought obedience. But she also knew what it looked like when a child was abandoned in plain sight. A sound broke through her thoughts, a glass crashing. The girl had knocked over her water. It spilled across the table and soaked into her pale dress. She frantically reached for napkins, bumping silverware, and creating a small clatter that made nearby heads turn. No one moved. No one helped. Elena stepped forward without asking, without waiting. Because sometimes your heart doesn't wait for permission. Sometimes it just walks straight toward the pain no one else wants to see. Elena knelt beside the table, lowering her voice as gently as a whisper carried by wind. "Hey there, sweetheart. My name's Elena. I work here. Can I help you clean that up?" The girl froze, then slowly tilted her head toward the sound. "Do you know where my mom is?" she asked. "I don't, baby. But I can sit with you for a little while if that's okay." The girl hesitated, then nodded faintly. "I'm Charlotte," she murmured. "But my mom calls me Lottie." "Well, Lottie," Elena smiled softly, "don't worry about the spill. Everyone knocks things over. I once dropped an entire tray of lasagna on a customer." "You're doing fine." "You're lying," Lottie said without accusation, just a quiet knowing. "But it's okay. Grown-ups lie to make me feel better." Elena paused, then surprisingly laughed. "Okay, fine. There's a little stain, but it's nothing a napkin and a smile can't fix." Lottie offered the smallest smile in return. And for the first time in that cafe full of perfect silence and polished glass, something real unfolded, a connection stitched from warmth between two souls who'd long grown used to being overlooked. Back behind the counter, Elena's hands shook slightly. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't care about probation anymore. She just needed to bring a little warmth to a girl who'd been left in the cold. In the kitchen, she quietly made a mug of hot cocoa just the way her little brother used to love extra cinnamon, because he said it made the world feel softer. She added a warm grilled cheese and 2 chocolate chip cookies fresh from the oven. Returning to the table, she didn't just drop the plate off like a server. She sat beside Lottie again, gently guiding her hands to the items on the tray. "This is your cocoa on the right, sandwich just above. Cookies to your left. Let me know if it's too hot." Lottie leaned closer, sniffing the cocoa, her voice barely a breath. "It smells like my grandma's house. But Mom says I can't have sweets unless she says so." Lena smiled. "It's our little secret, okay? A deal between two strong women." Lottie giggled. The sound was soft, like petals brushing against glass. But in that laugh, Elena heard something that shattered her trust. Something Lottie clearly hadn't given away in a long time. Around them, the cafe buzzed with clinking cups, muted phone calls, and the scraping of silverware on porcelain. But at table 12, there was a kind of quiet that felt sacred. Lottie nibbled her cookie with careful delight, her tiny fingers holding each piece as if it might disappear. You talk different, she said suddenly between small bites. Everyone else talks to me like I'm broken, like I'm furniture. Elena blinked, the words hitting deep. My brother's blind, she said, voice lower. When he was 5, someone asked him if he even understood English, like he wasn't human. Lottie's face tensed. Am I weird? No, baby, Elena replied without missing a beat. You're extraordinary. You're light, the kind of light some people were too scared to see. At that moment, the cafe door opened with a chime. A black luxury car had just pulled up outside. From behind the tinted window, a woman sat still watching. Her eyes, sharp as polished glass, didn't miss a single detail of the woman beside her daughter, because Miranda Astor had finally returned. And what she saw was not what she expected. The cafe door didn't slam. It didn't need to. Miranda Astor walked in and the entire atmosphere shifted, like someone had turned down the thermostat. Heels clicking sharply on the marble posture, flawless expression, unreadable. She was the kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to command attention. Tyson, the manager, practically tripped over himself trying to greet her. Mrs. Astor, we didn't expect. She brushed past him like he wasn't there. Her eyes went straight to table 12. Lottie was laughing softly, holding a cookie between her fingers, while Elena showed her how to distinguish between the smell of cinnamon and espresso. A moment so ordinary, yet so rare. Miranda stopped in front of them. Her gaze swept the table, empty plates, cocoa stains, crumpled napkins, and finally landed on Elena. You're Elena Carter, she asked, her voice clipped and cold. Elena rose slowly. Yes, ma'am. I see you've taken it upon yourself to feed my daughter. Before Elena could speak, Lottie chimed in, bright and unafraid. Mommy, Elena's really nice. She told me stars are like music you can't hear. Miranda didn't smile. She simply reached for her designer purse and asked, how much do I owe you? Elena met Miranda's gaze without flinching. Nothing, she said firmly. It was on the house. The silence that followed was so heavy, it could have cracked porcelain. Conversations around them slowed as if the air itself paused. Miranda's fingers froze on the leather of her wallet. She stared at Elena, not with rage, something else. Curiosity, maybe. Confusion. Lottie tugged her mother's sleeve. Can we come back tomorrow? Elena said she'd teach me the smell of coffee beans. Miranda said nothing. She simply took Lottie's hand and turned away. But as the door swung shut behind them, Elena knew she had just lost her job. Tyson didn't wait. He stormed across the floor, face flushed with fury. In my office. Now, Elena didn't argue. She followed him, spine straight, heart still echoing with Lottie's words. You can teach someone about coffee beans, but kindness teaches itself. And sometimes, that's exactly what gets you punished. The office was small and cold, the fluorescent light above buzzing faintly like a warning. Tyson slammed a paper down on the desk. Termination form. You can sign or I'll write up insubordination. Either way, you're done. Elena stared at the document. She could feel her fingers tremble, not from fear, but from memory. The way Lottie had smiled when she tasted the cocoa. The way she whispered, you're not afraid of me. And now here was the price. I wasn't being disrespectful, Elena said calmly. I was being human, Tyson scoffed. This isn't a rescue shelter. It's a business, and around here humanity doesn't pay the bills. Elena picked up the pen. She didn't cry, didn't plead, she simply signed her name. As she stood to leave, she looked Tyson in the eye. No child should sit alone for that long and feel forgotten. If that's wrong, then I don't want to be right. She walked out with no job, no apology, and no regrets. Because integrity doesn't always keep you employed, but it keeps your heart whole. That night, Elena sat at her kitchen table staring at the pile of unpaid bills and the termination letter. The apartment was dim, its only warmth coming from the memory of Lottie's laugh. Her phone buzzed. It was her younger brother, Jalen. You okay? He asked gently. I got fired for giving a blind kid cocoa and a sandwich. Jalen paused. You always said doing the right thing wasn't free, but maybe that's why it matters. Elena didn't answer. Her heart ached, but not from loss, from uncertainty. Then a knock. She opened the door to find a woman in a gray blazer holding a sleek black folder. Elena Carter. Yes, I'm Margaret Lorne, executive assistant to Miranda Astor. She's requested your presence at Astor Tech headquarters. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Elena blinked. Why The woman didn't smile. She said, "You're someone she doesn't want to lose track of." The door closed slowly, and Elena stood there, heartbeat thundering. Because people like Miranda Astor don't make invitations. They make decisions. And somehow, Elena had become one. The next morning, Elena stood at the base of Astor Tech Tower, its glass facade gleaming like a monument to untouchable success. She smoothed her thrifted blazer and walked in. No one greeted her. No one smiled. She was led up to the 51st floor. No artwork, no warmth, just cold corridors and the hum of power. Miranda was waiting her back to the panoramic view of Boston's skyline. "Sit," she said without turning. Elena sat. "You know why I called you here?" "No," Miranda finally turned. "My daughter talked about you. She doesn't do that. Not with teachers. Not even with me." "She was scared," Elena replied. "I just saw her." Miranda studied her. Not like an enemy, not like an employer, but like a puzzle she couldn't solve. "You made her laugh. You made her feel safe, and you did it for free." Elena stayed quiet. "I don't offer second chances," often, Miranda continued. "But I have a proposal." She slid a folder across the table. "Not money, not silence. A role in my daughter's life." Elena looked down and saw something she never expected. An offer that wasn't a job. It was a doorway. Elena didn't touch the folder. Instead, she looked at Miranda Astor, the woman whose presence could freeze a room, and for the first time, she saw something beneath the steel. Fear. Miranda inhaled sharply. "I want you to be Charlotte's companion." Her steady presence. Not a caretaker. Not an employee. Elena hesitated. "Why me?" Miranda's eyes didn't flinch. "Because my daughter has an ear for lies. She trusts you." She slid a second folder forward. Inside, a full background report, college transcripts, job history, even her brother Jalen's medical evaluations. Elena's breath caught. "You investigated me." "No," Miranda said. "I prepared. People like you don't come around often. And I don't want to miss my chance." Elena's hands trembled. She thought of Lottie's smile, of how the girl leaned into her, trusting her voice more than her own surroundings. And she thought of what it meant to stand beside a child who'd been taught to expect nothing real. She closed the folder. "You don't need an assistant, Mrs. Astor," Elena said quietly. "You need someone who won't look away." Miranda said nothing, but her silence wasn't rejection. It was the first crack in a wall that had stood too long. 3 weeks passed. Elena began arriving at the Astor estate every morning at 8 a.m., greeted by the soft hum of gates opening and Lottie's eager footsteps down the hallway. The little girl changed quickly under consistent care. She laughed more, asked more questions, and most of all, she began to hope. One afternoon, Lottie asked, "Why do grown-ups whisper when I walk in the room?" Elena paused. "Maybe they're not sure how to talk to someone who sees the world differently." Lottie tilted her head. "But I'm not scary, just blind." "You're not blind to the things that matter," Elena whispered. "That scares people more than you think." Lottie smiled, leaning against Elena's side. But something deeper was starting to bother her. "Do you think I could ever see again?" she asked one day. Elena didn't answer right away. Instead, she held her closer. Because truth and comfort often don't walk together. But Elena could feel it beneath the routines and laughter. A secret was growing like a shadow. And Miranda, she was watching every step. Not as a mother, but as someone guarding something far more fragile than her reputation. They spent their mornings exploring. Lottie didn't need her eyes to feel the world. To her, colors had sounds, emotions had sense, and sunlight wasn't something you saw, it was something you heard. When it's cloudy, she said, the wind sounds heavier. And when it's sunny, the birds sound like they're dancing. Elena listened in awe, but there were moments when Lottie's voice changed. When she whispered things like, "I used to see yellow. I remember it, but Mommy says it's just imagination." That word used to stuck in Elena's chest like a thorn. Later that evening, as she helped Lottie organize Braille books, one fell behind the shelf. Reaching for it, Elena's hand touched something else. A wooden box sealed, but not locked. "What's this?" she asked. Lottie's face turned toward her, unreadable. "Uncle Theo helped me hide it. Don't tell Mom." Inside, a diary written in Braille, a flash drive, and notes scribbled in shaky handwriting. Lottie placed her fingers on the top of the box. "I don't know everything that's in it, just that it's mine." And some of it is about the night I stopped seeing. Elena held the box in her lap, and suddenly it felt heavier than anything she'd ever carried. That night, Elena plugged the flash drive into her laptop. Videos flickered to life Charlotte with bright eyes running barefoot through grass. Her laugh was light, unfiltered joy. Then one clip that made Elena go still. Miranda behind the wheel of a car, a shaky hand recording a dashboard. Headlights. A scream. The next image was silence, only the soft beeping of hospital machines. Then a scanned document, sealed court records. A settlement signed by Miranda Astor. An email from someone named Theo Vick. The lawyers did their job. The other driver accepted the hush money. The judge sealed everything. But Charlotte deserves to know. One day, Elena couldn't move. Miranda hadn't just been part of the accident. She was the reason her daughter couldn't see. And somehow she'd made the truth disappear. Until now. Elena sat in the dark, the glow of the screen painting shadows on her face. Forgiveness was a bridge, but only if you built it on truth. And someone finally had to start building. The next morning, Miranda announced she would be taking Lottie to a foundation event. Elena offered to accompany them. Miranda refused. Not today. It's sensitive. Lottie looked uncertain. But I want Elena to come. Miranda's lips thinned. We won't be long. Something about the way she said it made Elena's stomach twist. As Miranda ushered Lottie out the door, Elena slipped a small tracking device into the side pocket of the girl's backpack. She didn't do it out of paranoia. She did it because the only thing more dangerous than lies is a lie told with good intentions. As the car pulled away, Elena stared after them, heart pounding. She no longer trusted Miranda's silence, because silence had a shape now, and it looked exactly like control. The dot on Elena's phone blinked slowly, moving further from Boston, further from everything familiar. Not toward a nonprofit foundation, but toward a secluded private clinic nestled in the woods an hour out of town. Her breath caught. She called Theo Astor. He picked up on the first ring. You found it, he said quietly. Where is Miranda taking her? Elena asked. To a specialist, Theo replied, voice tight. But not to heal her, to confirm she's still blind. Elena froze. What? She's done it every year. Makes doctors run tests, then orders them to say there's no hope, even when there is. Why? Because if Charlotte sees again, she might remember the truth, might see Miranda for what she did. Elena didn't speak. She didn't need to. She was already grabbing her keys, already running toward her car, already becoming the kind of protector she never had growing up. Because Charlotte didn't just deserve her sight back. She deserved to know she was never the one broken. The clinic sat like a ghost in the woods, windows bright, too clean, too quiet. Elena and Theo approached slowly. Through the glass, Charlotte sat on a chair clinging to her stuffed bear. Her face was calm, but her body fidgeted, like something inside her knew she shouldn't be there. Inside another room, Miranda spoke with the doctor. She said she saw light last week, the doctor murmured. A good sign. Miranda's voice turned sharp. It's not a sign, it's wishful thinking. I want confirmation nothing's changed. The doctor hesitated. With new treatment, there's a chance. Miranda's eyes hardened. That's not your decision. Elena felt the rage rise in her throat. Charlotte didn't need to be blind. She was being kept that way. Not for safety, but for Miranda's guilt. Because a mother who caused the accident couldn't bear the thought of being remembered for it. She thought she was protecting her daughter. But what she was really doing was protecting herself. Lottie, Elena whispered, bursting through the door. Charlotte turned toward the voice, face brightening immediately. You found me. Miranda spun around. What are you doing here, Theo? Theo stepped forward, voice firm. We know everything, Miranda. The accident, the sealed records, the treatments you canceled. Miranda's face crumbled. You don't understand, she whispered. If she sees again, she'll remember. She'll remember it was me. Elena stepped closer. She already remembers, Miranda. Not the accident. You. She hears you cry at night. She hears the lies in your silence. Charlotte reached out, hand brushing her mother's sleeve. I always knew, she said softly. I just didn't know why you wouldn't let me trauma. Miranda knelt slowly, her walls finally breaking. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. You didn't, Charlotte replied. But you almost lost yourself. For the first time, mother and daughter faced each other, not through glass or guilt, but through truth. And even in the silence, something healed. The doctor stepped forward. "There's a new treatment," he said gently. 60% chance of partial vision, but it needs consent. Miranda looked at Charlotte, and Charlotte looked at Elena. "What would you do?" she asked. Elena knelt beside her. "It doesn't matter what I do," she said softly. "What matters is, what do you want?" Charlotte thought for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders. "I want to try," she whispered. Her voice didn't tremble. It shone. Miranda nodded slowly, and for the first time the decision wasn't made out of fear. It was made out of faith. That a little girl was strong enough to face the world, and that maybe the world would be brave enough to face her back. 6 months later, the Astor garden bloomed in soft gold. Charlotte stood among the leaves wearing tinted glasses, her fingers outstretched toward a maple tree. "I can see the edge of it," she whispered. "It's orange and kind of wobbly." From the porch, Miranda sipped her tea. Her hands still trembled sometimes, but not from control, from humility. Theo stood beside her smiling. "She's healing," he said. "No," Miranda replied quietly. "She's always been whole. I'm the one who's just starting." Inside the house, Elena sorted boxes of donations for the Foundation's new initiative programs for blind children run by those who once were. When she stepped outside, Charlotte turned to her, joy beaming from her face. "Did you know the girl said that color isn't just something you see?" Elena smiled. "No, what is it then?" Charlotte laughed. "It's something you feel when someone believes in you." And in that moment, Elena knew she hadn't just helped Charlotte see the world again. She had helped the world finally see her. On Charlotte's 11th birthday, the Astor estate opened its gates not for investors or politicians, but for children. Children who had lived in shadows like Charlotte once did. The garden was transformed into a sensory wonderland, textured sculptures, flower paths scented with vanilla and lemon balm, musical wind chimes mapped in braille. Charlotte walked through it all with quiet confidence, guiding other blind children like a gentle captain of light. Miranda stood back watching. Her heels were off, her hands open. Theo came to stand beside her. "You did good," he said. Miranda shook her head. "No, she did." Elena smiled from across the garden, helping a small boy feel a sculpture shaped like a rising sun. Charlotte turned, sensing the moment. "She doesn't walk like a guest anymore," Miranda whispered. "No," Theo said. "She walks like family." And for once, Miranda didn't correct him, because for the first time in years, she didn't need to pretend she was alone. After the party, Charlotte approached her mother with a small wrapped canvas in her hands. "I made you something," she said, "but you have to feel it, not look." Miranda knelt. Charlotte placed the textured painting in her hands, swirls of thick ridges, soft velvet in the center, bits of stone, outlining jagged edges like scars turned into stars. "I don't know what it looks like," Charlotte said, "but I know what it means." Miranda traced the center with her fingertips, breath-catching. "It's us," Charlotte whispered. "The soft part is what we lost. The edges, that's what we survived." Miranda didn't answer. She didn't need to. Tears slid down her cheeks, quiet and unhidden. Charlotte reached up, touching her mother's face the way she'd learned to see, gently with trust. "I didn't need perfect," she said. "I just needed you to be real." And in that moment, Miranda Astor, once untouchable, once unforgivable, held her daughter like she was the only thing in the world that made sense. Because maybe she was. A week later, Miranda called Elena into her study. It no longer looked like a boardroom. There were warm lamps, flowers, even a photograph of Charlotte and Elena on the desk. "I used to think power meant control," Miranda said. "But control almost cost me everything." She slid a folder across the desk. This time there was no pretense. Inside was an offer, director of the Charlotte Astor Foundation. Full control, full vision, full trust. Elena blinked. "Why me?" "Because you gave something no one else did," Miranda said. "You gave her presence, and you gave me the chance to become someone better." Elena looked down at the contract. It wasn't just a promotion. It was a partnership, a way to build a future where no child would ever feel forgotten again. She signed without hesitation, because for the first time in her life, someone powerful didn't try to buy her. They chose to believe in her. Under Elena's leadership, the Charlotte Astor Foundation transformed from a vanity charity into a living, breathing force of hope. They created sensory art programs, mentorships for visually impaired youth, and therapy scholarships for families battling guilt and grief. Jalen, Elena's younger brother, now taught music workshops at the center. And Charlotte, she wasn't just the face of the foundation. She was its voice. Her story, once buried in silence, was now told on stages in schools through letters sent from children she'd never met but had somehow given courage to. One day, as Charlotte and Elena sat on the porch listening to wind chimes sway in late spring air, the girl whispered, "You think people are broken because they're different. But now I know," she continued, "sometimes we're different because we survived." Elena held her hand, heart swelling. Because those words didn't just belong to Charlotte. They belonged to every child who had once been told they couldn't and chose to rise anyway. In a small corner of the Foundation's new headquarters sat a single photo framed in gold, Charlotte eyes half closed behind tinted glasses, and Elena beside her, both laughing mid-story, mid-light. Underneath, an engraved plaque read, "It started with a cup of cocoa." No flashy branding, no expensive slogans, just a reminder that someone once chose kindness over rules, connection over convenience, and truth over fear. The world hadn't changed in one day, but one heart had, and that heart lit the way for others. On the anniversary of her first day at Bellamy's Cafe, Elena returned quietly, walking past the old table where it all began. It was empty, but her eyes filled with tears anyway, because she remembered the silence, and she remembered breaking it, with warmth, with truth, with love that asked for nothing in return and gave everything instead. Kindness doesn't require wealth, only courage. One quiet gesture can uncover truth, restore dignity, and heal wounds long buried. Sometimes what changes a life isn't power or status, but simply showing up when no one else dares to.